Hello, everybody. Welcome into SportsDay Insider, presented by the Dallas Morning News. I am Kevin Sherrington, joined by my old pal Evan Grant. Evan, you were making lobster rolls over the weekend?
We were saying goodbye to summer. You know, the fall is officially here in Texas. As you can tell. Yeah, we've got that. I've got my sweaters out. It's cooler weather. That's what happens.
Crackling fire. Oh,
that's right.
It's wonderful.
Crackling fire of hell. The crackling fire of hell that stays with us through like November. But you run into these things when your daughter's a pescatarian. You can't really just do the Labor Day cookout. So we had to come up with something fish that's also kind of celebratory, whatever. So we made some lobster rolls.
There you go. That's good. I like it.
Yeah, they were good.
That's good. That's always good. Yeah, we cooked out a lot over the weekend. We had the kids over, and youngest child was in from Arkansas. So we grilled steaks on Friday night, and then I was gone Saturday to College Station, and then Sunday we what did we have Sunday night? I should remember this. But I don't remember what we did Sunday night. It was something good though. I remember that. And then last night, just Debbie and I, we made nachos. And, yeah, we really went out, but we went big time. We didn't just, throw some, chips in a pan and pour some stuff on top. We cut up a lot of stuff, diced up.
Oh, there was cutting involved.
There was cutting and dicing involved. And it came from one of her magazines. We had seen this picture. It was just really great. A great picture.
I love the magazine. Every month Gina gets Real Simple. Well, she gets it, but I steal it, and then I look through all the recipes.
Yeah. No, it was great. Now I will say this. It had stuff like put tomato paste in the ground beef, and it's like, no, I'm not putting tomato paste in the ground beef for these nachos. I did.
That was too much effort for you to open a can of tomato paste and pour a little bit in there.
I don't want the sweetness of tomato paste. It's like, it's like chili now. I don't put tomato paste in my chili anymore either.
You're nuts.
Beef broth. It's much better. And anyway, we did put
what did you do? What was the cutting involved? What did you cut up to put on the nachos?
There was like a dicing of onions, garlic. There was lots of stuff in there. Yeah. Lots of stuff.
So you had onions, garlic, and beef on your nachos. Sounds delicious.
No. We had lots of stuff on there. There was all kinds of spices and stuff. And then there was cilantro. There was and then we had sour cream, and Debbie made her own guacamole, and it was really good. It was delicious. But we also put in there, instead of the tomato paste, we put in the a salsa from this place in Arkansas where she's from. It was really good.
Really good. Famous Arkansas salsa.
Well, it was. It's Taco Bell. Queso, or cheese dip as they call it there, was invented in Arkansas. It was not invented in Texas. And so
come on, it was invented in Sonora.
No, Arkansas cheese dip.
Don't do that to me, Kevin.
Yeah, Sonora. What does Sonora know about queso?
To go with, by the way, the lobster rolls, we made because I'm very hip, and I'm very much on the Instagram and all of that.
Yeah.
We made the viral smashed crispy potato salad that everybody is making, which was really good.
Well, no, we did have smashed potatoes the other night. That was really good. We took our little red potatoes and did that.
Came out crispy and had some tzatziki in there and some other stuff.
Yeah, see, the tzatziki and other stuff.
Had Greek yogurt, cucumber, dill, a little bit of garlic, some lemon zest, a little bit of lemon juice. Then I doctored it up for myself with a little bit of crisp bacon on top and some cracked red pepper.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
I remember what we had Sunday night.
Nachos.
Sunday night we had Joanne's chicken. It's called Joanne's chicken because it's heavily basted. I grill it. It's heavily basted in a butter sauce. I mean, all it is butter and some spices in it, and I just sloshed it all on there. And it's really great grilled grilled chicken.
And that's tied to Joanne Howe.
There was a woman named Joanne Sacre. It was her recipe from Debbie's hometown.
Okay.
So it's called Joanne's Chicken. Yeah. So that was the menu for the weekend.
Thank you, everybody, for joining the Food Network today for Cooking with Sports Writers.
We loved it. It was good.
I'll tell you what, maybe we should pitch that to the Food Network. Cooking with Sports Writers.
Yeah, that's what they would like. Yeah, sports writers. But basically, if they were eating with sports writers, even that would be bad.
Oh, that would be gross.
It would be gross. Most sports writers, I will say that. Yeah, that was the thing I will say, Evan, about being with Smiley Poole at the Olympics. And I love Smiley, and he's an unbelievable photographer, and he is the king of logistics. He steered me around Paris the entire time. It was all great, except the fact that in the world's greatest city for eating, Smiley would be just as happy eating at McDonald's. And so that was a little bit of a problem for me. I had to practically beg him, let's go eat something good for lunch, because lunch would be the only meal we could eat every day, really.
And what did you go eat?
Well, we would go to the little bistros around us. They were beautiful. And I mean, it was just so cool. You on our 5-minute walk to the metro station, you'd pass 6 of them. And it's just unbelievable, the stuff. And basically it wasn't anything fancy, but it was just, everything is really good. You know how that is.
They have potatoes there that are ridiculous. They fry them.
Yes. They're just fries. They don't call them French fries. That was the other thing I noticed about French onion soup. They don't call it French onion soup. It's just onion soup.
What about French onion dip?
I didn't ask for that. And same way with kissing people too. They don't say French kiss. They say kiss.
Yeah.
They take the French off of everything.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, that's enough food and kissing talk.
It's probably better than talking about the Rangers.
Well, anything is better than talking about the Rangers these days. Holy cow. Evan, I got to tell you, I'm going to confess to this, that during the Olympics, I was pretty busy. But even being pretty busy, I just stopped reading about them. It's just depressing reading about these boys. This collapse from it, as you target here at this point, they are on target to win 76 games, which at least is not historically bad for a defending world champion, but it would still be 14 wins fewer than last year. And that is miserable to fall off that much. I know there have been injuries and things have happened, but they had injuries last year as well. They overcame a lot of things last year. They were not a lucky team. Now, they might have been lucky in the playoffs, going 11-0 on the road. Those kind of things really played in their favor there at the very end. But they overcame a lot of adversity last year. And
they hit, Kevin. They hit last year. I mean,
well, absolutely. That's the difference. But that's what I'm saying is that that team, that we talked about this before. We talked about it at the time about the possibility that some of these guys might just be having career years, right? Yes. And it's just a perfect storm. Jonah Heim, Travis Jankowski playing so well in the limited role that he had. Adolis Garcia was unbelievable. And although Adolis had good performances before, he really rose to the occasion, especially in the playoffs.
Listen, Adolis had some home runs before, but if you go back and look at his first 2 years in the big leagues, he finished with right around barely above league average OPSs, 741 and 756. Last year was a big jump. And this year he's now below 700. So it's a significant drop off, and there's a lot of concerning factors there. You're talking about a guy who is 31 and who's got a big body. And I think there's always been some concern, whether it's founded in fact or not, that because of how big he is and how muscular he is and how hard he's gone in the outfield, that when that body started to slow down, it was going to be sudden and dramatic. And I think that's what we've seen a lot of this year.
Well, and I always worry a little bit about Cuban ball players, about how old they really are. Is he really 31 or is he 33?
Yeah, I hate to go there, but I mean, that is always a concern because of some of the record keeping there. But that's tended to be a concern, and maybe it does play into the factor that seems to be that when Cuban players, if we're going to make a broad generalization here, that when Cuban players do drop off, it tends to be sudden.
Yeah, I'm worried about Adolis at this point. He's got a year left in his contract. I think gets for $9 million. Obviously you got to go into next season with him in right field because they don't have any other obvious answers. They got enough problems trying to figure out what they're going to do in center field and left field at this point. I think Evan, really looking at the team at this point, Nate Lowe didn't give you a whole lot at first base, but he didn't give you a whole lot there last year either. I do
Nate
think that
Lowe is what Nate Lowe is. He's a 720 to 760 OPS guy. This year, he's kind of on the low end of that. But look, Kevin, I mean, he's right around league average for first baseman. The first baseman production has dropped off significantly around the league. But this has been a lesser year for Nate. There's no doubt about that. And I think that everybody who looks around this team has different guys that they point to as the boogeyman for the career year syndrome. At different points in times, Leody Taveras has been that guy for me. I think he's had a drop off of about 80 points in his OPS. For me, the most startling has probably been Jonah Heim. He's been OPS wise, he's been the worst player in the major leagues this year.
Yeah, and that is really awful what's happened with Jonah, and I do think that probably he was a guy that you could target. Certainly, he was one of the guys you would think of as that. But I have to say, overall, just looking at this team, the biggest disappointment to me is the outfield. We thought going into this season there was no reason to think that Adolis Garcia wouldn't continue to play like he did last year, right? And I'm not a huge Leody fan, never have been. I wasn't expecting a lot out of him. I expected probably about what we were getting, but I thought that in the end they would go with Leody for a while, and then Evan Carter would end up playing center field, and Wyatt Langford would play left field, and this team would be fine. And what happened instead was that Evan Carter got hurt again, and I think there's real questions about where he ends up when he comes back. Will he be able to hit left-handed hitters? Will he be able, or left-handed pitchers? Will he be able to, stay healthy? And then Wyatt Langford had an okay year for a rookie. And I think for most rookies, this year would have been just fine, except that going into this season, we looked at him as like, this guy looks like he could be tremendous, a tremendous asset to the team. He could answer a lot of the questions, and he just didn't do that.
I don't think you can say everything. His numbers would have been just fine for rookie. I don't think that. Yeah, maybe if it's a guy that you don't have super high expectations on, flirting around 700 with the OPS would be acceptable. But this is a guy who was your first round draft pick, who you moved exceptionally fast, and who you had rookie of the year hopes for. And he's not going to finish in the top 5 in rookie of the year. And that, I don't want to say it's a disappointment, because I think there were a lot of other extenuating factors that have helped contribute to Wyatt's struggles. But I don't think you can sit here and say that this year was a success for Wyatt Langford.
No, I don't think so either. So that's, for me, that's legitimate concerns about what do you do with the outfield next year, going into next spring. I mean, I don't think that you've got a definitive answer at any one of those positions in the outfield. I think you could probably say that Wyatt's going to be your left fielder, and then Adolis is going into the season going to be your right fielder. But I don't know that you can say, well, we feel really good about those positions now. We feel like these people are ready to go and be contributors. I think that, as you said, I think that's who you're going with in left field. And I think that I don't have any reason to believe he won't end up being a very good player. But I certainly don't feel the same about him going into this next season that I felt about him going into this one. And then, in the center field, it to me is a mess now. I don't know what the answer is unless you move Wyatt to center field. Now,
no, you're going to play. You're probably going to play Evan Carter in center field. And the question about Evan Carter is going to be: is this back injury something, as the Rangers have stated, that he should essentially grow out of as he gets a little bit more? He just turned 22. As he gets a little bit more stability to his core, I'm just not sure that. I just, to your point, I'm concerned about a guy who 2 out of 3 years has missed basically 2/3 of the season with back injuries. It's not two different injuries. You can say, hey, Josh Young has had some freak injuries over the past 4 years, and he has, but this is the same injury twice, and that's got to be a concern.
Yeah, sure it is. And then, as I said, he didn't show anything when he was healthy to say that, oh, yeah, now he's ready to hit left-handed hitters either. So this was supposed to be the year that he kind of fixed that, and that's not fixed either. So those are legitimate concerns, and I think that they do need to be aggressive either in the free agent market or in the trade market. I think they could use an outfielder. I think they could use another first baseman. I think they could use a DH. I don't know what they're going to do at catcher. I don't know if the answer at catcher is to catch Jonah less. I think probably it is. He probably doesn't need to be catching 100 games a year, and maybe that'll make some difference in him. I don't know. He does always, we've talked about it before. The body language is never good, especially when he's at the plate, and to me, it looks like he's tired. He just always looks tired to me.
The body language is bad. And when you're losing, it particularly stands out. When you're winning, you kind of joke about it a little bit. When you're losing, it particularly stands out. And when you're not performing and losing, then all of a sudden it creates a narrative of a guy being a low energy guy.
Yes, it does. And no one likes to see that. Yes, on a losing team. But, we've kind of buried the lead here. None of this stuff really matters. Well, it does matter, but it's going to be difficult to do when you have the general manager doesn't have a new contract. And we've gone all summer here, and we had a statement from Ray Davis early in the spring saying that, oh, yeah, I love, what Chris Young is doing, and we're going to get something done. Well, nothing's been done.
We had two statements. One at the end of spring where Ray Davis said, he wants to sign Chris Young. And again, when you wrote in June or I think it was late June, that Ray Davis issued you a statement saying, again, he intends to sign Chris Young. So there's no doubt that the owner wants the GM here.
There is no doubt.
I mean, publicly, he's said twice he wants the GM here.
Well, I'm from the school that you can say what you want to say, but let's just get something done, right?
Right.
What's so hard about this? Unless Chris Young is just saying, I'm not negotiating anything during the season. And I don't know that if that's the case or not.
I think, and I intend to explore this a little bit further, and I did to some extent in my on a video that I did 2 weeks ago. But I think the Rangers, they've got a little bit of a vision issue right now. I think Ray is, as a business owner, very much focused on the RSN situation and solving that and getting answers about what his financial certainty on that front will be for 2025. And I think duly, and he's hinted as much without saying it on the record outright, but I think the intention is for this team to get below the collective bargaining, the CBA tax, the collective balance or the competitive balance tax, the CBT. And to do that, they'd have to have a payroll next year of under 241 million, which you do the math and everything. There will be some money to spend this year, but it still means cutting of payroll from where it was this year. And so those, I think, are Ray Davis's focuses in the short term. And I think the GM is still focused on the long term. Okay, we've got some players here in our prime, in their primes. And we've got some young players that we feel like are going to help them. What are we going to do to win now and in the long term? And so I think that is where the biggest issue lies, is how do they solve which vision they want to adhere to more closely?
Yeah, okay, I get that, and I would think the fact if you're not going to re-sign Max Scherzer, which I don't know why in the world they would want to re-sign Max Scherzer at this point at 41, he's just he's just breaking down every 15 minutes. That would say they're on the hook for like what, 20 million a year for Max, something like that.
Max this year, I think they paid 20 million this year. Yeah.
That's somewhere around there. So that alone right there, that's a nice chunk of change. If you're not, if you're
Again, you're
trying to,
talking, but you're still talking about going from where they're at right now, 250 to under 240.
right.
And listen, no, there's no guarantee that Ray is saying that if the CBT balance or threshold is 241, we'll be at 240. In all likelihood, the maximum they'd probably be at with benefits and everything would probably be in the 230 to 235 range max. So that would give them some flexibility once they got into the season if they made a deal. And that's talking about with $18 million in benefits, which are figured in, that means you'd have about $212 million worth of actual payroll. 105 million of that is already committed, or more than 120 million of that is committed to DeGrom, Seager, Simeon, John Gray, and Adolis Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
That's
then what do
half
you
your
do?
payroll for 5 players.
So you go with the 15-man roster then? Is that
Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like any of this. I don't like where it's all headed, Evan, at this point. And the worst thing for me with all of this is that it just starts to make the title look like a fluke. And then people nationally have even started to write that. And that's embarrassing to me. I mean, look, as we all know, flags fly forever, and that's a great thing. The Rangers got their championship, and God bless them for that. It was all a great experience, and we were there. It was all a lot of fun, and I give that team all the credit in the world for what it did. But it just to come back like this, and then with the possibility that there's no guarantees they're going to try to make a big bounce back next year. It's not going to be another Bruce Bochy. I win a World Series. I don't do well the next year. Then I come back and win another World Series the year after that. I mean, I have to say right now, from where they sit and that kind of talk, and that these are their plans, and we need to get down, we need to do this, we need to do that. Well, then you're not talking about bouncing back and competing for a World Series, because if this team going into next year, because of what it's done, I don't know that if they don't make significant improvements across the in several positions, that people would say, "Oh, they're ready to come back." Why would they say that?
Well, look, a lot of the perspective on the Rangers is going to be determined by how those young players perform next year, and there is a lot of talent there in Carter and Langford, and obviously Josh Young. And that could swing a lot of things. But to your point, I tend to disagree with the one and done or fluke labels on teams. Look, you're a champion. There's no qualifying champions. You're a champion. The only time that I've ever considered a champion to be something not quite genuine, cheating scandals aside, perhaps, is when the Marlins won in '97 and then decided to willfully strip that team down to about $40 million in payroll. I don't think this team is willfully going to scuttle its entire roster, but I do think that they need to think twice. You've got Corey Seager in the prime of his career. You're paying him $32 million. You've got Jacob deGrom at $37 million. If you don't surround those guys with guys who can win, then those are wasted contracts, and it is wasted money. And so you're in some ways where I liken the Rangers to right now to a different time in their history would be 2003. The difference here is that obviously Ray Davis won a championship. Tom Hicks did not. after he inflated his payroll. And then he decided it's too expensive to play with the big boys. And that was before CBT tax came into play. And so he decided to say, I'm just going to save money. And it comes down to whether or not your focus is, in the short term, do I want to save money and run a tight business, or do I want to win and potentially have to write some equity checks here?
Well, there's no question about that, and that's going to be the issue. And of course, as we've talked about before as well, winning makes you money. If you win, you're gonna be in the playoffs, and then that's where you start to make money, and that's what every owner should be angling toward. Of course, we don't know with Ray Davis if winning that World Series was enough for him. I doubt that it was. I don't doubt that Ray Davis wants to win. I don't know how he balances that against, though, losing money. And that
is the question that I think needs to be answered most, right? It is always easy for ownership to say we want to be financially prudent and successful on the field. That's our long-term goal. But in the short term right now, the Rangers have a binary choice, really. It's either save money or prioritize winning.
Yeah, no question about that. So we'll see where that all goes. And before we get out of this little Rangers segment here, I do want to ask you this question, because we hadn't really talked about it, and no one's really talked about it, is that, so Bruce Bochy is going into the last year of his contract. Would you expect that he would want to keep managing? I mean, I would guess if the Rangers go through another year like this one, that maybe that'll be it for him. Maybe that's all he wants to do.
Along with everything else, the Chris Young situation determines so much of the future. If Chris Young walks out the door this year, and the Rangers don't get him signed, I don't know that Bochy comes back for next year. He came here, because he had a relationship with Chris Young, and he came here to win. If Chris Young does sign, maybe Bochy re-ups and, takes the contract extension that probably would have been offered had he wanted it after last year. So that's another thing that is up in the air. The future of this club is very much to be determined in these next 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, no question about that. All right, that's going to do it for the Rangers segment of our podcast. We're going to move over now and talk a little bit about the Cowboys. All right, our buddy David Moore joins us now to talk about the Cowboys and where they are. And of course, what we know they are is that.
Well, I thought we were going to talk about Labor Day food. I thought.
No, we already talked about.
Don't I get my 8-minute rebuttal to your culinary tastes?
You get no rebuttals on the food part of that. All right, tell us what you had for Labor Day.
No, I don't know. Let's go on. Let's get right there. Let's go.
Oh, okay. All right. I think people might have enjoyed that, but that's okay. All right. So, Dak Prescott, of course, still doesn't have a contract. Our buddy Tim Kalishaw writes that's not such a bad thing. Maybe he should be, singing for his supper this year. David, here's my take on that. Let me just say this first off before you give your bit on this.
Sure.
Is that I don't have a problem with saying that. Let's make him sing for his supper if you had a viable alternative. And right now the Cowboys don't have a viable alternative. Cooper Rush is not going to be the starting quarterback in 2025, and neither is Trey Lance. I'm just going to say that right now, Trey Lance is not ready to start in the NFL, and he's not going to get ready this year unless something bad happens to Dak Prescott and the Cooper Rush as well, and they're forced to play Trey Lance at that point. And maybe if he plays, 14 games, maybe he'll be up to acceptable as a starting quarterback going into 2025. But I don't think so.
No, that is the thing. I mean, and people are going, well, why is this taking so long? What's going on? And people want to focus on what Dak says and read between the lines, and what Jerry and Steven say and read between the lines. My response is, you don't have to read between the lines. If ownership wasn't conflicted about giving that amount of money to Dak Prescott, it would have been done by now, because there are no options in place. This isn't why do we pay that when we know this guy is on the rise? This isn't this isn't a Jordan Love behind Aaron Rodgers situation in Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers is going, well, I need my money now because I see the writing on the wall and, that situation disintegrating. There is no one here to push or challenge Dak Prescott. The fact he is not signed yet, look, there's several factors here. One, just from a marketing standpoint, which I know everyone rolls their eyes when they hear Jerry Jones applying marketing concepts to how the Cowboys are run. But after that Green Bay game, with the way Dak played in the first half of that game, the way he played in the first half of the San Francisco game last year, you're going to jump out and make him the highest paid player in the game after that performance in Green Bay. That would not have, what kind of message does that send your fan base? And what message does that tell other players in the locker room who are seeking big deals? You can fall flat on your face in the biggest games you play, and we're going to reward you. So you have to get some separation from time from that, which I don't think enough people are acknowledging was a part of these dynamics of what was going on here. But now you're to the point where now it seems to me from an organizational standpoint, if you don't sign Dak Prescott, to use an old man phrase, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. He can walk in free agency. You get nothing at the end of this season if he's not signed. You're still on the books for a $40 million cap hit with no quarterback on the roster at that point, because all of these quarterbacks are in the final year of their deal. You don't have a replacement going forward, which means you're going to have to grope and struggle for a few years and hope you find the player. So just from a organizational standpoint, it's hard to conceive why this isn't done. The only reason it isn't would be because no matter what he says, the owner has a difficult time reconciling paying market value to a guy he loves everything about except the postseason record of 2-5, and has serious questions about whether, in paying a franchise quarterback this amount, knowing we will have to trim in other places and our roster won't be as good throughout because of the money we have to pay, can he elevate that? Can he elevate the team with lesser talent to take where he hasn't done in his first 8 years? And people can say what they want and read between the lines. Jerry Jones is telling you by his inactivity what he's struggling with here.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. But, and look, I have been all over the map with Dak. I've kind of been a defender, supporter.
Yeah.
Not so much,
Most people are.
Yeah. Well, and not especially not after the loss to Green Bay, and because of the 2-5 record in the playoffs, and those are legitimate things, and the disturbing things he said about his mind racing, and in that big game, and it was going faster than his body and all of that, and it's like these are not things you expect to hear from a quarterback as seasoned as he is. You would expect him to be that to come from a 23-year-old guy, not from what is Dak, 28, 27, 28 years old. So that was disturbing. But I can't get past the fact that even at that, Dak Prescott got you those 12 wins and got you to the playoffs. If you have another quarterback, a rookie quarterback, a journeyman quarterback who wins, maybe he just wins 8 or 9 games or 10 games, and you don't make the playoffs. You don't even get to that point to make that. And I know that everybody's attitude is that, well, I just don't want to have to pay Dak that much money. And I get that. I understand that. I said, but to me, that's part of the conundrum is that, as I've always said, you never quit a job until you have another job in hand. And I'm the same way with quarterbacks. I don't quit a quarterback until I have another one in hand. I want to know that I've got somebody who's going to take this guy's place, and I'm pretty confident in his ability to guide me. Now, obviously, it's going to be a different thing where you are in your window too, right? If we're not a very competitive team, well, then it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
If the Cowboys were a team that's going to be a 500 team, well,
they're 3 straight 12-5. They have the same regular season record as Kansas City, the 2 best regular season records over the last 3 years. This is about failing to live up to expectations in the postseason, which goes well beyond the time Dak has been here. but the sins of the past are also, they're part of the burden he carries going forward.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Well, David, let's not spend all our time just talking about Dak. We could always do that, but let's go around a little bit here. I wanted to know an update here because as I was gone and in Paris, and I didn't spend as much time trying to keep up with the Cowboys.
You just keep throwing that around, while I was gone
I keep saying
in Paris.
That whole Paris thing. I'm going to use that excuse as long as I can. Maybe stretch that into like.
I missed that. I was in Paris. What happened?
That's right. Oh my gosh. So give me the offensive line left to right here, David. That'll be starting for the Cowboys.
Well, left tackle across from a pretty good defensive end in Myles Garrett for Cleveland. Myles Garrett will welcome Tyler Guyton, the team's first-round pick, to the NFL at left tackle. Left guard is Tyler Smith, who at one point was projected as the heir apparent to Tyron Smith at left tackle, but were so dominant at guard, they decided to keep him there and find a tackle in this draft. So the two Tylers at left tackle and left guard, you will have starting on the road in the dog pound, not only his first NFL game, but his first game in competitive football at the center position, Cooper Beebe, who was a dominant guard in college. He will start. So 2 of the 3 starters from left to right will be rookies, with Tyler Smith, who is just entering his 3rd season in between them. And then the right side, Zach Martin. And then right tackle will be Terrence Steele, who looked better in this training camp than he did at any point last season. And last season, he was coming off a major knee injury.
Right. So would you have expected that Guyton was going to be starting game 1?
Yeah.
When they drafted him?
Yeah. Because yes, I did. They've done a good job identifying players in the offensive line in recent years. There were a lot of questions when Tyler Smith, people went, well, yeah, he's the nice player, but he's raw. They're not going to get him up and running and ready to go. He was thrust in there and was outstanding as a rookie. And it was kind of similar to Guyton to me, that the book overall, the scouts were saying, well, yeah, a lot of raw ability, a lot of upside, but not necessarily ready to plug in and play. This group has done it. And I will also say, too, that Mike McCarthy has a willingness to play rookies in the offensive line more than a lot of coaches. And his stance is, look, if they have the athletic ability, get them in there, let them build as a unit, and it's incumbent on me to protect him early when I can. And that's what he will do in this game against Cleveland. You can't leave a tight end next to Tyler Guyton to help him the entire game and assist him. But they will do it in key situations so he's not exposed, so he can build his confidence, so he can win some individual battles against Garrett or whoever he's going against and build him up that way. I think McCarthy has shown a nice touch for building up the confidence of rookies and protecting them as much as possible without compromising what their play style is.
Yeah, I would say that they have done a pretty good job. That's the one area where they have they're batting the highest, right? Is at picking offensive.
I would say so.
And of course they're spending high picks on them. But as you said, some of these guys were not no-brainers either. They were not guys that everybody thought, oh yeah, this is an automatic here.
Yeah, and Terrence Steele was an undrafted rookie free agent out of Texas Tech who played in a passing system and is an outstanding run blocker in the offensive line. So I mean they've developed guys. Now he's the guy who came out of the rubble of Mike McCarthy's first year here, the COVID rattled and injury rattled first year of Mike McCarthy. He came out of that. So and now you need someone in the wings for Zach Martin, but you get a sense that this team has a good feel. This personnel staff has a good feel for how to target and develop young offensive linemen, because we've seen it. We've really seen it over the last 8 to 10 years.
Yeah. All right. So give me the defensive line now.
Well, the two ends are going to be DeMarcus Lawrence, and Micah Parsons. To me, it's going to be interesting. I think Parsons will be at linebacker more this year than we've seen him certainly any year since his rookie season. And I think he will be rushing from different spots and move around in the line more than he did under Dan Quinn. Let's see how that unfolds. But I'll list him as a starting defensive end because certainly he's a pass rushing specialist and one of the best in the league. But I think you're going to see him more at linebacker in different packages. I think he'll still blitz some as linebacker. Zimmer does that a lot with his linebackers. But I think you'll see him drop back in coverage more than you have in these last couple of seasons at least. And he seems to be fine with that. But those are the two ends. The interior guys will be Oso Digizua again at that 3 technique and Linville Joseph. A split between Mozzie Smith and Linville Joseph, in essence, the nose tackle in the Mike Zimmer scheme.
Yeah. Okay. And so did you feel like that Mozzie Smith has made any improvement? Enough improvement?
I think he's made improvement. The question is there enough improvement? We'll be able to tell that by the snap count. I believe Mozzie Smith will start. I believe it'll be interesting at the end of games to see what the snap total was for Mozzie Smith and Linville Joseph. That will show you beyond what they say about what he's doing, how much progress he has shown. Last year he was only on the field for about less than 28% of the snaps, I believe.
Yeah.
That will definitely jump up this year. But how productive will he be?
Is DeMarvion Overshown going to start?
That's going to be interesting to see how they do the linebackers. I mean, Kendricks will start in the middle. Damone Clark. I would say Overshown at this moment. I think he'll probably be in there. They really like Maris Leofau, the rookie. He's been pretty impressive. He plays, he's probably the middle linebacker backup to Eric Kendricks now, but they've also used him at other spots. So I think you'll see him out there too, because they love how he plays. They love how physical he is. They downhill style. I think you'll see Overshown and Leofau more and more as the season goes along.
Yeah, this is an organization that didn't show a lot of respect for linebacker positions, even though they drafted guys like Leighton Vander Esch very high, and maybe that was a mistake as well, considering that what they knew about his neck problems and the fact that brought a premature end to his career.
Yeah.
But they seem to have improved there. I used to always complain a lot about free safety as well, or the safety position in general, and they kind of have solved that as well the last couple of years.
Yeah, and that's when people are saying, well, they need to get better in the run, it's like baseball. You need to be strong up the middle, right? It's the same thing in stopping the run. You need to be strong in the interior of the defensive line. You need to get more size at linebacker, which they have under Zimmer, and the safeties. And look, the safety started to improve dramatically under Dan Quinn. This rotation, the 4 safeties they have, the first 4 are really good. They're really confident in those guys. And, with Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson, the 2 starters, very good, hard-hitting guys. And Wilson has gotten a little bit better in coverage in his time out there. But he's the classic thumper. He's the one coming down, helping you in the run game. The biggest change this year is Dan Quinn opted for quicker. He was fine with quicker, smaller linebackers who you could use in coverage packages. And that's often why you would have a safety down in a hybrid linebacker role, because it was more nickel and dime packages. And he was wanting to frustrate and give a lot of traffic to the quarterback in the passing game. Zimmer is more, now we're going to go traditional. We want size here. We need size to stop these teams. And then we're going to force you to throw. And we still feel good about our coverage guys on the back end. We'll make this work. So he's going to lean toward bigger, stopping the run, where at times you may be exploited in the passing game, where Dan Quinn was the exact opposite with what he wanted of his linebackers and safeties in that situation.
All right, flipping quickly back over to the offense, so Dalvin Cook was signed. Is he going to be on the active roster, or they're going to bring him along slowly?
I don't envision a scenario where that will be the case this week. I think the clock is ticking on him. And you've seen this in recent years when they expanded the practice squad, that veterans who weren't in camp, who have a nice resume of accomplishment in the league, they will be brought on, and you can elevate them 3 times from the practice squad before you have to find a place for them on the active roster. So Dalvin Cook, is the guy. If anyone in this running back by committee stumbles or gets injured early in the season, he is poised to take their spot. But it's not like I said, it's not just injury insurance. If this group isn't as effective as they need it to be, Cook is ready to be exchanged in there as another part of this running back by committee.
Yeah, to me, that was still a mistake in the draft here. I still think in the 3rd round they should have taken him back.
Huge question for them, and that's going to be it. Let's see how much Maris Leofau contributes this year, and juxtapose that over what a running back in that 3rd round would have given you, because that is the pick where if they were going to go running back and get one of the guys they liked, it was there, because you remember they moved up and they got Cooper Beebe with the first 3rd round pick. The 3rd round pick was where they knew there was going to be a run on the running back board if they didn't take a back there, and they went with Leofau instead. So that is how, in my mind, that's how you judge this season, whether or not they made the right call there.
Yeah, no question about that. All right, we'll see if they're ready. That's going to be quite a test here against the Browns, especially that.
Yeah, they were not a good road team last year. They were 3-5 on the road. Did not look good, and especially against road teams in the other conference. They really struggled and have been for a couple of years. So,
yeah. All right. Well, there'll be lots to talk about. There's no question about that. And speaking of which, I'll be up in Ann Arbor for Texas and Michigan this weekend after starting out this last Saturday down in College Station.
Have you ever covered a game there before?
Well, a couple. Oh, you mean in Michigan?
Yeah,
I did back in the '80s. So it is a huge place, as it's known, the Big House, the biggest stadium in college football. At one time, it was 30,000 more than everybody else.
Oh yeah. It was a big.
And now you see both that A&M and Texas Kyle Field and Royal Memorial both have over 100,000 capacity now. So it's not as big an advantage as it used to be, but still, a monstrous stadium.
What are you going to do? You're going to write just one little column from up there? Is that what you're going to do?
No, I'll try to dig up something else to write about.
Take.
Maybe Ted Cruz will come up to Ann Arbor as well, like he went to College Station, and talk about how he's going to save college football.
I'm not gonna mention that Ted Cruz showed up in College Station. What did A&M do?
They lost.
Hadn't somebody done that now? Isn't he like 0-9 or something when he shows up on his?
It's not a good thing when Ted Cruz shows up at your sporting event.
Well, I think he pointed out that he was there when they upset Alabama, and I think you didn't talk about the other game. You went back 3 years for that one, so I'm not sure that he.
When did they upset Alabama?
Well, that was Jimbo Fisher did. Jimbo beat #1 Alabama. That was 2021. Was that what it was?
Okay.
That was one of Jimbo's signature wins. He didn't have very many of those. Not enough anyway. So we'll see.
I'm just going to tell you this, Kevin, since we're still on the food kick, and I don't know when you're going to Ann Arbor or anything, but there is supposedly of all things, a great deli in Ann Arbor.
Really?
Yeah.
A great deli in Ann Arbor. I would love a great deli. Did I tell you that I sent an email to Sarah Blaskovich and said, why is it that in Dallas-Fort Worth we don't have a great deli? We have
Zingerman's Deli. It's right near the campus. Zingerman's Deli.
Zingerman's?
Zingerman's Deli.
All right, I'm going to write that. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to go there and I'm going to order the Evan pastrami sandwich.
Sarah and I are going to embark on an investigation on why there are not more good delis in Dallas.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You got Kenny and Ziggy's in Houston, a terrific deli there. There's no
It
reason
is.
why we can't have one here.
I will say that for my money, and I have just eaten recently at my favorite New York deli, the Second Avenue Deli, that Kenny and Ziggy's may be the best Jewish deli in the country.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's saying
High
something.
Food
praise.
quality's great. The menu's huge.
Yeah, it is that. No question about it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
It is good stuff. It's always a must stop when I go to Houston. Got to go to Kenny and Ziggy's. All right, let's talk a little bit
about college football, Kevin.
Well, Texas is going up to Michigan. That's going to be a tough game for them. It's not as incumbent upon them to go up there and win. Well, I don't know that people were thinking they had to win when they went to Alabama last year. But they won there, and that set them up for the rest of the season, right? Any kind of argument about whether Texas deserved to be in the playoffs, that was always the first argument, whether they beat Alabama at home.
If they win there and they run the table, yeah, they're in. But who knows what you do in the SEC your first year?
Oh, no question about that. But I will say this:
give them a margin of error. It does give them a margin of error.
It does, and I'll say this too about Texas. I was not sold on them at all going into last year, and Steve Sarkisian and the hire and all the rest of that. But you have to say something about the fact that they keep signing really good players, especially on offense. They just signed another big time wide receiver out of Florida it was between them and Miami, and so they keep making these kind of signings. They keep now. Besides Quinn Ewers, who played very well in that game in the opener against Colorado State, and then they brought in Arch Manning, and he was terrific. He had 2 touchdowns. They might have the top 2 quarterbacks in the country. I mean, I don't know anybody else who has 2 quarterbacks that appear to be of that caliber, and that's hard to make a judgment about Arch Manning at this point because he's played so little. But he certainly has the pedigree, and he certainly hasn't disappointed since he's started to play a little bit more. So. If something were to happen to Quinn Ewers, and that certainly something has happened to him the last couple of years, it appears that they have an answer for that. So I don't know. Texas' chances are pretty good. And after watching A&M, I don't know what in the world happened to Connor Wegman, who I was very high on in the 4 games he played last year. He played very well, and he just looked shell-shocked in his return against Notre Dame. Now, that's a very good team. The Fighting Irish was ranked 7th going into that game, and they're very good. I thought that A&M showed some good defense for the most part until late in the game when they started getting gashed, and Mike Elko, an old defensive coordinator, was just apoplectic that they gave up 198 yards rushing, which you can't do.
I've only been in the state 28 years. At what point?
Seems longer, by the way, but
an
go
official
ahead.
Texan when you finally realize that Texas A&M is just an underachieving school? Is that when you get your Texas citizenship?
Well, I see you missed most of the R.C. Slocum years, and so when R.C. was there, the A&M was not an underachiever. They did win, and they did win Big 12 titles, and they were very good. That was a very good program.
You didn't like those Johnny football years?
They were just very brief. That was the thing. I will say.
Did they finish better than 3rd in any?
It doesn't matter. Were they fun to watch?
Football? Yes, they did. Finished 2nd.
They finished 2nd one year in a division.
That was some great stuff. The other day I was looking at this old Dave Campbell. Dave Campbell put out a book right before he died of his favorite stories, and I was very blessed that he included one of mine. It was from the A&M playing Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl, and Johnny football in that game. I have only watching a game, only laughed out loud at something I saw on the field that was not intended to be funny a couple of times, and I was watching Johnny football run around those Oklahoma Sooners. That was one of the most entertaining football games I've ever seen in my life. He obviously he was a bust in the pros, and I don't know that I expected him to be anything other than that. But to watch him play in college football was unbelievable. And I got to see that game in person, and then the game in Tuscaloosa when he beat them. And in both those games, he was worth the price of admission. But there have been too few times like that in A&M's football history. There's no question about that. And I tell you, I'm a little worried about A&M and what direction it's going, because one of the things that Trev Alberts, the new athletic director, has talked about was getting everything in line here. They spent freely, obviously, on Jimbo Fisher and that contract, which they've been ridiculed about. I gave them the props for spending and having the guts to do it. But, to pay a guy $75 million to walk away, that's kind of hard to take. And I think there's an attitude there among the big hitters. We need to get all this back in order here. We need to get everything under the line here as far as our financials. And that's not the direction that college football is going now. The direction of college football is going is we're spending money, and I don't know that they are ready to do that right now. I think it had a little bit to do with the Mike Elko hire, and we'll see where they go. But this is not a good time for A&M to be retreating with Texas coming in and apparently on the upsurge. You don't want that to happen. And I don't know. I didn't have a lot of faith in Oklahoma. I will see how the Sooners do. Replacing Dylan Gabriel at quarterback, Jackson Arnold looked pretty good in that opener. Didn't put up dazzling numbers, but he was, he had a little bit of a problem throwing the ball to the wrong team when he played last year. We'll see how he does this year, if the Sooners are ready to take that on or not. But this is a big game for Texas, obviously, playing Michigan. It's fun that you get these big games early in the season. That gives you something to target other than a lot of these blowouts that keep happening around the league. All right, before we get out, we also want to mention Scotty Scheffler winning the Players' Championship. As I said again, I'm constantly giving Tim Kalishaw props for stuff that he writes. I don't think he's doing that on Around the Horn for me. I don't know. I don't watch Around the Horn.
You don't give anyone else props on anything. I think we can all agree to that.
That's what I'm thinking, probably.
Wow.
Is the deal. But he said it, maybe the greatest season. I don't know if he said it was the greatest season there. I don't think he said that. He said that certainly one that had never had before. And he was throwing into that, obviously, having a baby and getting arrested. So it has certainly been a news-making year for Scotty Scheffler. It's hard to say that it's the greatest there when Byron Nelson won 11 tournaments one year, right? And now we can. There have been people who have said, well, and that was
it's a different era.
It's a different era, and it's at the end of the war. And you had guys who weren't available on the tour and all that kind of stuff. Winning 11 tournaments in a year, I don't care what the situation was. That's pretty good. But I will say this, that Scotty Scheffler's rise has just been phenomenal to me, and to watch that, especially from the Dallas angle, as we've talked about. When he was growing up, he and Will Zalatoris were contemporaries, and Jordan Spieth a couple years older than them, and Jordan just dominated them. It was like it was like playing against your big brother, right? And he just beats you every time you play, and Jordan, rightfully so, got all the attention. And now what we have seen is that Scotty not only has met that match, he's exceeded him. He's gone beyond what Jordan has been able to accomplish. And we'll see if Jordan ever responds, and that he's going to have this wrist problem that he's
that was also symbolic too. Just before Scheffler is crowned as the number one golfer, and there's no doubt about it by what he did, winning that final tournament. Just a few days before that, I believe Jordan Spieth announced that he had wrist surgery and that he'll be back next year. So, I mean, just the juxtaposition of that for when their roles were just so different a few short years ago was dramatic.
No question about it. Listen, George's a great kid. Scotty's a great guy. I mean, they're great, people, great ambassadors for golf. There's no question about that. I wish Jordan all the best. He has struggled with that, and I know that's hard to take. The guy's made a lot of money. He's won a lot of tournaments. He's already had a great career. But I hope that he gets this back on track, right? And that would be really wonderful for not only for golf, but for fans of golf here in Dallas to watch that. And if Will Zalatoris can keep his back in shape and overcome some of the problems he's had, when they're all three healthy and in the right mind, they're three of the greatest golfers in the world. So it's pretty fun to watch that happen, and especially all three of them still being so young. they should have a lot of golf out there in front of them.
Well, I'd love to be healthy once and in my right mind.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing, to have some clarity every once in a while, and I wish that for you. It would be a lot of.
I've got clarity.
You got clarity?
Oh, I thought you said Claritin. Yeah, I take that for my allergies.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm taking it as well. I don't even take Claritin. I take the Walgreens knockoff, right?
Yeah.
That's a bad
Wallatin, I think they call it.
Wallatin or something like that. Yeah, I can't even pronounce it. So
you know what I have clarity on these days, Kevin? What I want to play around with in the kitchen. That's what I have clarity on.
Yeah, there you go. I like
every weekend. That's my fun time.
Well, Evan, it's good to know that that's going to happen. And that's going to be, you're going to get to do that probably a lot more because this season that you're covering is about to be over. Whereas last year,
this season is over, Kevin.
Well, you're right. But officially, I mean, we went way into football season last year.
Yes, we did.
Baseball. And that was a lot of fun. It seems like a long time ago now.
Yes, we did. Now I just have to figure out how I'm going to the Georgia-Texas game and also to the Florida-Texas game.
Wow, how about that?
Yeah.
Well, I'll be at the Georgia-Texas game. Not Florida-Texas, but Georgia-Texas. All right, that's going to do it for this week. We appreciate you taking the time. Come back and see us next week, and we'll have more for you. We'll talk about all these things and how everything goes and see if we've got any changes in personnel anywhere. Or maybe if Chris Young has got a new contract.
And we'll be able to, when we come back next week, we'll be able to completely assess the Cowboys season, right, after one game?
Sure, absolutely. We always do.
I will. I'll have some knee jerks.
Yeah, or just a jerk. So anyway, from everybody in here to everybody out there, thanks, and we'll see you next time.